Red Bull Racing has just made what their own team principal Laurent Mekies calls the craziest decision possible, and it's sending shockwaves through the Formula One paddock. While the team is currently experiencing a resurgence under Mekies' leadership, with improved performances at races like the Italian Grand Prix, where Christian Horner even texted Martin Brundle to congratulate the team on turning the car around, they're about to face their biggest challenge yet. Max Verstappen may not be in the running for this year's Drivers' Championship, but the current reigning champion could still play a crucial role in the fight between McLaren's Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris over the remaining 8 races. However, next season presents an entirely different scenario for Red Bull, AT1, one that has the entire Formula One world questioning their sanity. 2026 will mark Red Bull's first full season without long-standing team principal Christian Horner, but more importantly, it will be their first with their own in-house built power unit. The difficulty of this undertaking cannot be overstated. Designing an F1 car is complex, but building an engine is far more challenging. In fact, it's such a difficult undertaking, especially for a first-time attempt, that Mercedes chief Toto Wolff believes Red Bull Powertrains has Mount Everest to climb to be ready and competitive next season. Speaking at the Dutch Grand Prix, Wolff didn't mince words about Red Bull's prospects. "My first answer would be that's Mount Everest to climb, because our engine departments have grown over tens of years," he stated. Having said that, you can never underestimate anyone in this sport that has the firepower to build something from scratch with new ideas coming in. Maybe different ways of thinking in terms of innovation, and coming out with a product that can be a surprise. The skepticism extends far beyond Mercedes' team principal. Ask anyone in the paddock, commentators, journalists or fans, and expectations for Red Bull are universally low. Even the FIA doesn't have high hopes for their success. To avoid a huge disparity in engine performance across the grid, similar to what occurred between 2014 and 2017, when Mercedes initially dominated while Honda struggled for years, the FIA will introduce a safety net for struggling manufacturers. This safety net will provide manufacturers who are significantly behind with extra engine budget cap allowances, additional dyno hours, and the ability to adjust power unit homologation. While these measures are helpful, they won't provide an instant fix. If Red Bull are down on power from race 1, it won't catch them up by race 2. They'll still need to rely on their own talent and skill to find performance and catch up to the field. Laurent Mekies himself admitted the audacity of their decision during the Monza weekend. "It's as crazy as it gets to do your own engine," Mekies said on Friday. "It's the sort of crazy stuff that Red Bull does. We don't underestimate it or underestimate that these guys have been doing it for 90 years or whatever. It's being set up in the Red Bull way at the maximum possible level. We expect a lot of sleepless nights next year to try and get to the next level." The team principal was brutally honest about their expectations, refusing to set specific targets for their debut season. "We're not going to put a number on where, meaning what position we are going to be. Like Toto said, we're going to start with Everest to climb." Mekies has gone as far as saying he doesn't expect them to arrive at the start of next season ready to compete immediately. "Then, as I said, we expect a year with a lot of hard work, a lot of sleepless nights next year to try to get to the right level," he stated. "But it's a challenge that very much feels like a Red Bull challenge, and we love that. We're not going to put a number on where we think we'll be, because I don't think anybody has a number, but we know we're starting with a mountain to climb." While Red Bull prepares for their engine mountain climb, another seismic shift has occurred in Formula One's future direction. Christian Horner, during his tenure as Red Bull's team principal, had been a vocal supporter of F1, abandoning current hybrid engines in favor of returning to combustion-dominated power units, specifically V10 or V8 engines. This idea gathered substantial support from fans, and even some within the FIA, but recent developments have definitively ended any chances of this happening anytime soon. FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem had been attempting to implement massive engine changes just 3 years into the 2026 regulations, but his efforts have hit an insurmountable wall. Ben Sulayem had been pushing for a switch to a 2.4-litre V8 naturally aspirated engine with minimal hybrid assistance for 2029, despite an earlier push for V10 seconds being rejected in April, and the fact that F1 is introducing completely new engine rules next year that are scheduled to run until the end of 2030. According to the BBC, a crucial meeting had been scheduled for this week to discuss the V8 proposal, but Ben Sulayem was forced to cancel it. The cancellation came after it became clear that reaching consensus with engine manufacturers to introduce the change for 2029 would be impossible. Any such change would have required a majority vote from manufacturers, and that support simply wasn't materializing. The fundamental problem the FIA faced was financial reality. The engine being introduced next year, the 1.6-litre V6 with substantial electrical components and renewable fuel capability, has cost manufacturers enormous amounts of money to develop. Additionally, the 2026 regulations are precisely why 3 manufacturers chose to start building engines for F1, with a 4th joining in 2028. Audi and Honda are building engines for F1 specifically because they support what the 2026 regulations represent technologically. Ford has partnered with Red Bull for identical reasons. When GM finally introduces their engines through their Cadillac team in 2028, it will be because they want participation in the cutting-edge technological development these regulations represent. While there wasn't major opposition to the concept of switching to 2.4-litre V8s, disagreements arose over crucial technical details: the proportion of power output from the hybrid system, whether turbocharging should be included, and implementation timing. This marks the second time in 6 months that the president of motorsport's governing body has been defeated while attempting to change F1's engine regulations. His V10 plan was rejected at a meeting during the Bahrain Grand Prix, where it was agreed that hybrid technology and sustainable fuels were non-negotiable components of F1's engine future. Following that meeting, the FIA issued a statement confirming firm commitment to the 2026 regulations, though manufacturers would continue discussing future engine direction. The FIA statement emphasized that electrification will always be part of any future considerations, and that the use of sustainable fuels will be an imperative. It became clear that manufacturers are joining or remaining with F1 specifically because of the sport's position at the cutting edge of engine technology. Ford CEO Jim Farley recently stated, Ford is very committed to partial electrification for performance. Honda, Mercedes, and Audi made their commitment to hybrid power unequivocally clear during the Bahrain meeting. The reality is stark. While fans may prefer a return to V10 seconds without hybrid assistance, there is no future for the sport without engine manufacturers. Without hybrid technology or sustainable fuels, there are no engine manufacturers, and without them, F1 ceases to be F1. Sources indicate that Ben Sulayem now intends to postpone any attempt to change engine rules until 2031. F1's governance agreements only extend until 2030, so theoretically, the FIA could impose any rules desired for 2031. However, if Ben Sulayem simply writes regulations according to his preferences without manufacturer support, he may discover that F1 disintegrates around him. The convergence of these two stories, Red Bull's risky engine gamble and the definitive rejection of nostalgic V10 dreams, represents a pivotal moment in Formula One's evolution, where commercial reality and technological advancement have definitively triumphed over romantic notions of the sport's past.